I was discharged from the hospital, and no one came to get me. Not my mom, not my dad, not even my sister. No calls, no messages, nothing. At first, I thought something was wrong. Maybe they were stuck. Maybe they didn't know I was leaving, so I didn't panic. I just booked a ride and went home alone, still weak, still in pain, still believing this was just bad timing. But when I reached my house, my key didn't work. I tried again and again. Nothing. That's when something inside me dropped. So I knocked. The door opened, and a woman I had never seen before looked at me and said, "You don't live here." I didn't argue. I didn't react. Because in that moment, I looked past her, into my own house, and saw that everything inside was gone. That's when I realized my family didn't just leave me at the hospital, they replaced me before I got home. Before I tell you how I found out the truth. My name is Lena Carter. I'm 27 years old, and this happened in Columbus, Ohio. The surgery wasn't planned. It wasn't something I could prepare for. One moment I was fine, and the next, I was on the floor, barely able to breathe. Appendix rupture. That's what they said. Emergency. Everything moved fast after that. Hospital lights, voices overlapping, machines beeping. My mom drove me there. She stayed close, held my hand while I waited, told me, "It's going to be okay." And in that moment, I believed her. Because when you're in that kind of pain, you don't question people. You trust them. You hold on to whatever they say, like it's the only thing keeping you steady. Right before they took me in, she leaned closer, looked directly at me, and said, "We'll be right here when you wake up." Not maybe. Not we'll try. We'll be here. And that matters. Because promises like that don't just disappear, they stay with you. Especially in moments like that, when you're scared, when you're vulnerable, when you don't know what's going to happen next. I remember being wheeled away, still holding on to those words, still believing that when I opened my eyes, everything would be okay, because they said they'd be there. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was silence. No voices, no movement, no familiar faces, just machines, and a nurse standing beside me, adjusting something on the IV. For a second, I thought I was still dreaming, because something felt off, too quiet. So I asked, "Did my family step out?" She didn't answer immediately, just paused. And that pause told me more than anything else. Then she said, "No one's been here." And just like that, something inside me shifted. I didn't believe it at first. I couldn't. Because people don't just disappear like that. Not after saying they'd stay. So I made excuses for them. Maybe they stepped out. Maybe something urgent came up. Maybe they didn't know I woke up. I kept repeating those thoughts, like they would somehow make it make sense, because the alternative was something I wasn't ready to accept. That they left. Not accidentally, not temporarily, but intentionally. Hours passed. Slowly, painfully. I kept checking my phone every few minutes, then every few seconds, waiting for something, a message, a missed call, anything. But there was nothing. No, "Are you okay?" No, "We're on the way." No explanation, just silence. And the longer that silence lasted, the heavier it felt. Because silence like that isn't confusion, it's a decision. By the next morning, they told me I could leave. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it didn't make sense. I said, "Someone's coming to get me." The nurse didn't argue, didn't correct me. She just looked at another nurse. That look people give when they already know the truth, but don't want to say it out loud. And in that moment, I understood something. They weren't coming. So I got up, slowly, every step pulling at my stitches, every movement reminding me I shouldn't be doing this alone. But I was. I walked through the hospital hallway, holding my bag in one hand, watching other patients leave, with families, with support, with someone beside them. And for the first time, I didn't feel confused anymore. I felt something else, something quieter, something heavier, because I wasn't waiting anymore. I was just leaving. I called a ride. The driver noticed immediately the way I moved, the way I sat, carefully, like everything hurt. He asked, "No one could come?" I smiled, said, "They're busy." But even I didn't believe that, because being busy and being gone like this are not the same thing. One is temporary, the other is a choice. When we reached my house, something felt off. Not obvious, not dramatic, just wrong. The driveway was empty. No cars, no lights, no signs of life. But I ignored it. Because I was tired. Because I just wanted to lie down. Because I wasn't ready to question anything else. So I stepped out of the car, walked to the door, and reached for my keys. I put the key in the lock, turned it. Nothing. I tried again. Slower this time. Still nothing. That's when my chest tightened. Because keys don't just stop working. Not suddenly. Not without a reason. I stepped back. Looked at the door. Looked at the lock. And for the first time, I felt it. Not confusion. Not denial. Something deeper. Because in that moment, I realized something had changed. And I had no idea what it was yet. I didn't panic immediately. I told myself, maybe the lock was just stuck. Maybe I was still weak, still recovering, still not thinking clearly. So instead of forcing it, I stepped back and knocked. Soft at first, then a little louder. Each knock echoing in a place that was supposed to feel familiar. That was supposed to feel safe. And as I stood there waiting, something didn't feel right. Not outside. Inside. Like the house itself wasn't mine anymore. At first, there was nothing. Just silence. Then, footsteps. Slow. Steady. Unfamiliar. And that's when my heart started racing. Because I knew those sounds. Every house has a rhythm. A way people move inside it. And this wasn't mine. These weren't my parents. This wasn't my sister. This was someone else. And in that moment, before the door even opened, I already knew. Something was wrong. The door opened halfway. Not fully. Just enough to see her. A woman. Mid-40s, hair tied back. Calm. Composed. Looking at me the same way I was looking at her. Confused, but not lost. Certain. Like she knew exactly where she belonged. And I didn't. We stood there for a second, just staring at each other, neither of us speaking, because neither of us expected the other to be there. I was the first one to speak, because I had to. "I think there's a mistake." My voice was weak, but clear, like I was trying to hold on to something that was already slipping. She didn't react immediately, just looked at me, then said, "No, I don't think so." Calm, not defensive, not confused, just sure. And that confidence hit harder than anything else, because mistakes sound uncertain. This didn't. Then she looked at me again, more carefully this time, like she was trying to understand why I was still standing there. And then she said it. The sentence that didn't make sense, at first. "You don't live here." Not rude, not aggressive, just direct, simple, final. And for a second, my brain didn't process it, because some sentences don't feel real until they do. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice, didn't react the way I should have. I just stood there, frozen, because my mind was trying to catch up with what I just heard. This was my house, my address, my life, and someone was standing in my doorway, telling me it wasn't. And the worst part wasn't confusion, it was the feeling that she believed it. Completely. So I reached for my phone, hands shaking slightly, opened my email, pulled up documents, lease, bills, photos, everything that proved this was mine. I held it out to her. This is my house. My voice steadier this time, stronger, like proof would fix everything. She looked at the screen, took a moment, then looked back at me and said, "We moved in last week. We." That word stayed with me because it meant something bigger. Not just her. Not just a mistake. A decision. A move. A plan. We moved in. Like everything had already happened. Like whatever this was, wasn't temporary, wasn't accidental. It was done. And in that moment, I stopped trying to prove myself right because something deeper clicked. This wasn't confusion, this was replacement. I asked one more question. Not loudly, not emotionally, just carefully. "Who gave you the keys?" And she didn't hesitate. Not even for a second. "Your parents." That was it. No hesitation, no doubt. Just the truth. And hearing that did something inside me. Not anger, not shock. Something quieter. Something heavier. Because now, everything made sense. I stepped back slowly, not because I accepted it, but because I understood it. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't bad timing. This wasn't confusion. This was planned. While I was in surgery, while I was unconscious, while I trusted them. They didn't just leave me in that hospital. They moved on without me, replaced me, erased me. And standing there, in front of a house that used to be mine, I realized something important. This wasn't the moment I lost everything. This was the moment I stopped being blind. I didn't run. I didn't argue. I didn't try to force my way inside. I just stepped back. Slowly, carefully, like I needed space. Not from her, but from the truth. Because my body was still weak, still recovering, still in pain. But inside me, something else had started rising. Not panic, not confusion, something colder, something controlled. Because this wasn't an accident anymore. This was a decision. And now, I needed to understand it. I sat down on the curb, right outside my own house, took a breath, and called my mom. It rang once, twice. Then she picked up. Her voice sounded normal, too normal. "Hey, how are you feeling?" Like nothing had happened. Like I wasn't sitting outside my own house, locked out of my own life. And in that moment, I knew something. She already knew. I didn't accuse her, didn't raise my voice. I just asked, "Why can't I get into my house?" There was a pause. Small, but clear. The kind of pause people make when they're deciding what to say next. Not because they don't know, but because they do. Then she said, "Oh, we were going to tell you." That sentence ended everything. Because it meant this wasn't sudden. This wasn't rushed. This was planned. She started talking fast. Too fast. Like she had rehearsed it. "It's temporary. It made sense financially. You weren't using it." Then she said something she probably didn't mean to say out loud. "We needed the money." That line changed everything. Because suddenly, this wasn't about timing. This wasn't about convenience. This was about profit. They didn't just give my house away. They rented it. While I was in surgery. While I was unconscious. While I trusted them. And in that moment, I didn't feel confused anymore. I felt replaced. For a reason. I didn't interrupt her, didn't argue. I just listened. And slowly, everything started connecting. They didn't do this suddenly. They didn't decide this overnight. They planned it. While I was in surgery. While I was unconscious. While I trusted them completely. They moved someone else into my space, into my life, and made sure I wouldn't even be there to stop it. I ended the call, not because I was done, but because I needed confirmation. So I called my sister. She picked up immediately, too fast, like she had been waiting. And that told me everything, because people don't answer that quickly, unless they already know why you're calling. I asked her the same question. Calm, clear, no emotion. And she didn't deny it, didn't hesitate. She said, "We thought it was the best decision." We. That word again. Not her, not my mom, all of them, together. And just like that, it wasn't one person, it was everyone. And suddenly, this didn't feel new anymore. It felt familiar. Every time I was left out, every decision made without me, every moment I was told, "It's for your own good." It wasn't care, it was control. And I had been accepting it for years, without questioning it, without seeing it, until now. I opened my phone again, checked my bank. Everything looked normal, but something didn't feel right. So I checked deeper. Property details, ownership structure, documents I never questioned before. And that's when I saw it. The house wasn't just mine, it was tied to them, legally. A detail I ignored, a detail I trusted them with. And that trust was exactly what they used. And that's when I understood something deeper. This wasn't just control. This wasn't just a pattern. This was business. I wasn't part of their life anymore. I was an asset they used. I sat there, on that curb, still in pain, still alone, but no longer confused. Because now, I understood everything. They didn't just replace me, they erased me. And for the first time, I didn't feel emotional. I felt clear, calm, focused. Because I wasn't going to react. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to do something else. Something they didn't expect. Because sometimes, the quietest response does the most damage. Before I show you what I did next, I need to ask you something. If you came back from the hospital and your own family erased you like this, what would you do? Would you fight them? Or would you do what I did? Tell me in the comments. Because what I did next, they never saw coming. I didn't go back to that door. I didn't argue with the woman. I didn't call my parents again. Because reacting emotionally would only give them control. Instead, I booked a small hotel room for the night. Nothing fancy. Just a place to sit, to breathe, to think. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in pain, still processing everything. But for the first time since the hospital, my mind was clear, because confusion was gone, and clarity is dangerous. The next morning, I opened my laptop, logged into everything, emails, cloud storage, old documents, anything connected to me, because if they could replace me from my own house, then this wasn't the only thing, and I needed to know how deep this went. At first, everything looked normal, nothing obvious, nothing broken. But I kept searching, because people don't make moves like that without leaving something behind. That's when I found it, buried in my email, old, almost forgotten. A document, property-related, ownership clauses, authorization details. At first glance, it looked normal, like something I had already signed, something routine, something easy to ignore, but something about it felt off, too clean, too convenient. like it was meant to be overlooked. And in that moment, I understood something. This wasn't random. This wasn't last minute. This was planned. I zoomed in on the signature, my name, my handwriting, but something wasn't right. The curves were slightly different, the spacing, uneven, small details, the kind you don't notice, unless you stop trusting what you're looking at. I stared at it longer, and that's when the thought hit me. What if I didn't sign this? What if I trusted them, and they used that trust against me? And suddenly, everything made sense. They didn't need to trick me. They just needed me to believe them. I thought back. All the times my mom handed me papers. Just sign this quickly. Nothing important. Routine stuff. And I signed. Without reading. Without checking. Because she was my mother. Because I trusted her. And in that moment, everything made sense. They didn't need to trick me. They just needed me to trust them. I didn't call them. I didn't confront anyone. I did something better. I called a lawyer. Quietly. No drama, no emotion, just facts. I explained everything, sent the documents, and waited. Because truth doesn't need volume. It doesn't need anger. It just needs proof. He called back that same evening. His tone was different, serious, focused. This isn't just unfair. This could be illegal. And hearing that changed everything. Because now, this wasn't just betrayal. It was something else. Something bigger. Something they couldn't just explain away. He told me something important. Don't contact them. Don't warn them. Don't react. Because people only make mistakes when they think they've already won. So we let them believe that. We let them feel safe, comfortable, untouched. Because the moment people feel secure, they stop being careful. And that's when they lose control. Days passed. I didn't call. I didn't text. And they didn't either. Not once. Not even to check if I was okay. And that silence confirmed everything. I wasn't part of their life anymore. Not temporarily. Not emotionally. Completely. And strangely, that didn't hurt anymore. Because now, I wasn't waiting for them. I was watching them. By the end of the week, everything was ready. Documents reviewed. Signatures analyzed. Legal steps prepared. Every detail in place. And for the first time, I felt something different. Not pain. Not anger. Control. Because they thought I was gone. They thought I disappeared quietly. They thought they replaced me. But what they didn't realize was, I never left. I just stopped reacting and started preparing. And when I came back, it wouldn't be emotional. It would be final. A week later, I went back to that house, but this time, I wasn't alone. My lawyer was with me, calm, professional, holding a folder that carried more weight than any argument ever could. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. Because this wasn't about emotions anymore. This was about truth. And truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to show up. And that day, it did. I stood in front of that same door, same place, same silence, but everything felt different. Because this time, I wasn't asking. I knocked once. The door opened. Same woman, same confusion. But before she could say anything, my lawyer stepped forward and asked, "Who gave you legal possession of this property?" Not emotional, not aggressive, just precise. And that one question changed everything. Her expression changed instantly. The confidence she had before was gone. Because this wasn't confusion anymore. This was legal. This was serious. She stepped back, not arguing, not defending, just uncertain. And for the first time since that day, I walked inside. Not as a guest, not as someone asking, but as someone who knew this was still mine. Everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. Furniture moved, details changed, energy different, like my presence had been erased, like I had never existed there. And that hurt more than anything else. Not the betrayal, not the replacement, but the fact that it was so easy for them to remove me, to replace me, to move on, like I was never part of it. My lawyer made the call, right there, on speaker. No warning, no preparation. My mom answered. Her voice changed immediately the moment she heard mine. Not calm anymore, not controlled, just tense. Because now, this wasn't a conversation. This was exposure. My lawyer spoke. Clear, direct, professional, explaining everything. The forged signature, the unauthorized transfer, the legal consequences, every word landing heavier than the last. No emotion, no exaggeration, just facts. And on the other side, silence. Long, uncomfortable, real. Because truth doesn't confuse people. It corners them. Then my father spoke. For the first time. Not confident, not controlling, just shaken. We thought it would be easier this way. He paused, then added, we needed the income, and you weren't even there. And that was it. Not regret, not guilt, just justification. Because in his mind, they didn't remove me. They replaced me with something more useful. I finally spoke. Calm, steady, no anger, no emotion. You didn't make it easier. You made it final. That was it. No yelling, no arguing, because sometimes the quietest words hurt the most. And this wasn't about hurting them. This was about ending it. Completely. Within days, everything reversed. Legally. Completely. The documents were invalidated. The transfer canceled. The house restored. The people inside, gone. Just like that. Because when truth is proven, it doesn't fight. It corrects. And everything they built collapsed. Quietly. I stood in that house again. Alone. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt clear. Because I finally understood something. They didn't just try to replace me. They showed me exactly who they were. And sometimes, that's the closure you need. Not apologies, not explanations, just truth. Because the moment you see people clearly, you stop chasing them and start choosing yourself. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong in your own family, I want you to tell me honestly, did you stay silent? Or did you finally choose yourself? Because stories like this, they're not just stories, they're decisions. And if you understood this one, you already know why I walked away. Subscribe, because the next story might hit even closer.